for this citizenship or CSR work. The way our citizenship lead in India is implementing our citizenship program is very different than the way our citizenship lead in the UK is implementing the program. And that is as it should be, because we want to make sure that we're responding to local needs and local issues and local concerns. So, while we have a global program and we have serving communities and working responsibly and we have guidance for our local citizenship leads, it's really important that those local folks take that global guidance and adapt it and adjust it to issues of concern in those communities and to the culture in those communities.
Think globally, act locally. I mean, that's
absolutely.
what
And you have to, and it's interesting. PwC is a global network of firms, so we're not a global firm like Microsoft. So each of our individual territories are owned and operated by those individual partners, the separate partnerships that are there, and we are under a global leadership team that helps pull it together. But you're talking about then having a conversation about corporate responsibility in each individual territory and trying to gain agreement. And we do have agreement of what are our core principles, how are we structured, that's the same. But what that looks like and how somebody might carry out, whether it's pro bono, whether it's giving, whether it's your commitment around your reductions in your environmental work, it's all different because it's very challenging based upon the individual wants and needs and trying to make sure that the cultural norms and, again, the regulations are met within those individual territories.
Does it begin to look like a problem that Western-based companies are imposing Western values on? To what extent is CSR apparently Western in the eyes of authorities in China or in India?
I think we really need to be mindful of that. And we were talking earlier, and I hate to going back, but I will, to the issue of philanthropy. Philanthropy's a sort of cultural imperative or a cultural foundational issue in the United States, in part because of the incentives in the current tax code. But you go to the UK or France or Germany or India or China, and philanthropy is not as much a part of the culture, to say nothing of corporate culture, just individual culture. But talent development or skills training or volunteering in terms of bringing, in the case of Microsoft, IT skills to a particular nonprofit or a community issue or partnering with the government to work on something is a much more sort of normal way of addressing those kinds of engagement issues.
You find this in very surprising areas. I consulted with a company that was trying to standardize pension benefits around the world. And they were trying to, and in certain countries where children take care of the parents, they didn't want pensions because it disrupted the entire sort of cultural aspect of the company doesn't take care of our parents when they get older. We take care of our parents. And it really, they were trying to actually do the right thing and to some degree impose an American style, like we will provide security and funding for you after you retire. But in some countries, that's a cultural no-no.
Let me jump in here. We haven't yet gotten the results of our first poll question, but I do want to ask our second poll question, which should be coming up on your screens, and that is, what end results are you most focused on in this context? Is it A, public reputation, B, worker satisfaction and involvement, C, attracting new hires, that's come up here, D, making a difference, or E, lowering costs? So please answer those questions, and we'll come back to the results a little while later. But if I can now jump to Shannon and ask you about PwC specifically, what are the specific issues that face a firm like PwC, a network of firms, like you said? It's not even a single organization in some senses. And is it difficult to, especially difficult, I think, to standardize the culture, to spread it from headquarters, which is not really even in charge of PwC China or PwC here in the United States?
I think it's very interesting. I think we have one of the challenges that within each of our territories is we're incredibly spread across. So we don't have a campus that the majority of our people are at like some corporations do. We're really, our 37,000 people within the U.S. are in about 85 different offices. So everybody is kind of everywhere, and because of the nature of consulting, many of those people are on planes, and so they're not even in an office at any given time. And so trying to figure out what actually will engage them, because again, for us, our people are what's going to drive this. I mean, we can spend money, we can change our offices, we can work with our landlords, we can change our environmental footprint, but at the end of the day, our people and their buy-in is what's important to actually make this something that can drive efficiencies and can enhance our brand and can drive them to want to be here and to be able to attract other people that are here.
What's a good example of a CSR challenge that you faced and maybe made some headway on?
Well, I mean, there's a lot, particularly within the whole notion of engagement. When people talk about engagement, many times they're just talking about participation, right? They want to get somebody to do something, do a volunteer program, maybe join a green team. And I think what we're trying to focus on is that isn't about a one hit. This is about how do you actually embed engagement into the life cycle of your people. So what does it mean to enter in an orientation, do what we do, a 4-hour training where there's a bike build and understanding what corporate responsibility is and understanding that this is going to be your role here once you start and that's the company that you're a part of. And then filling out your annual development plan and having the notion of what are you going to put in there that you're going to give back, that you're going to do. Do you want to be a lone staff? Do you want to do pro bono work? What does it look like for our supply chain people that they've now added environmental, and which seems odd for a professional services firm. So actually putting it in the various different life cycles of where our people are, as well as embedding it into our functional areas where that's not the norm, especially for a professional services firm, and then trying to determine how do we try to mirror that framework across the territories. So at least we're focusing on, we all know that for us, corporate responsibility is going to include something around pro bono and how we engage our clients and the reputation that we have, something around people and engagement and diversity and training, something around community development and a foundation, and then something around environment. We all know that, but the devil's in the detail about what that looks like, and it does, and it changes, and it doesn't just even change by different territory and country, but it can change by office. What we do in New York is different than what we do in Chicago, is different than what we do in Los Angeles, and it's trying to make sure that they're enough alike and there's enough themes and threads that you can actually create data and show that you're making an impact, whether that's a return on investment.
This is an interesting one for you because you do CSR consulting, so it's part of your business for others, and then it's also something that you should be applying to yourselves. I often see companies that do not apply the principles they sell to others to their own business. Is it a struggle sometimes?
Well, it's interesting. We leverage back and forth our sustainability business solutions practice a lot. And so they've come in and helped us with stakeholder engagement, helped us set out our first and now our second 4-year plan around our environmental commitments. They've helped us look at right now about value reporting. And so we're trying to determine what's the value of the things that we do around community, environment, and how does that translate back to revenue and to brand and to engagement. And so we work back and forth, but we think it's important that we walk the talk. And so if we're going to tell clients that this is what's important, we better be taking a look and doing that ourselves. And I think they learned from us knowing the complexities, because it's one thing to be able to say, we're going to go and teach a client, but as somebody who's in the shoes of a corporate responsibility professional, when you started this out, there's a lot of stuff that's on sticky notes and Excel files, and you're trying to put together the data, and the last thing you want is like this big firm coming in saying, I'm going to, help to audit you.